Banned from the NFL isn't a list you'd want your name on. From aggressive on-field behavior to run-ins with the law, the ways to make it onto the NFL naughty list are diverse. Even Golden Boy Tom Brady was banned for 4 games back in 2015 for knowing Patriot employees were deflating footballs and not doing a thing about it. Yeah, that's a weird one. Here are some players who were banned from the NFL for a lengthier amount of time, and definitely way worse reasons. Art Schlichter. Art Schlichter. With a name like that, you kinda have to have some sort of criminal record, or at least be a famous composer or something. Well, Art had all the potential in the world to be a successful quarterback. He was picked in the first round in the 1982 draft by the Baltimore Colts after having quite a record-setting 4 years at Ohio State. While he was a Buckeye, he managed 7,547 passing yards and 50 touchdown passes with 46 interceptions, also rushing for 1,303 yards and 35 touchdowns. In his varsity years, he was Ohio State's all-time leader in total offense, but his hobby of gambling was becoming less of a hobby and more like an addiction. To put it in perspective, he blew his Colts signing bonus of $350,000 by mid-season, and it just got worse from there. A year later, he ran to the FBI in fear of his life due to a group of bookies threatening him for his unpaid debts. He was suspended from playing in 1983 for betting on NFL games and other sports events, and reinstated the next year, playing a few games for the Colts again in 1984 and 85, until rumor had it that he was still gambling and the NFL kicked him to the curb. Art declared bankruptcy in 1988, claiming about $1 million in debts. Between 1987 and 1992, he was arrested 3 times for theft, forgery, and fraud. You'd think he'd have learned his lesson, but no, he kept at it and he kept getting caught. Between 1995 and 2006, he spent a total of 10 years behind bars. The man has a wife and 2 girls, and there was a little bit of hope for a while as he helped form a nonprofit organization, Gambling Prevention Awareness, to spread the word about gambling addiction. But that wasn't enough to stop his criminal behavior. In 2011, Art was again arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison for fleecing millions of dollars from innocent people in a sports ticket scheme. He also was ordered to pay $2.2 million in restitution. His expected release date is October of this year. Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger's NFL career began in 2004 when he was selected 11th overall in the NFL draft by the Steelers. In 2005, at 23 years old, Roethlisberger became the youngest quarterback to win the Super Bowl. He then won his second Super Bowl in the 2008 season against the Cardinals. In 2010, he was suspended for 6 games for violation of the league's personal conduct policy. This was due to the allegations of sexual assault being brought against the quarterback. Although there was not enough evidence to convict Roethlisberger, he was still suspended, with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell stating, "You don't have to be convicted of a crime or even charged with a crime. If there is a pattern of behavior that reflects poorly on yourself and the team, and the league in general, it's important for us to have early intervention to stop that behavior, so that they live up to the standards that people expect in the NFL." His behavior was then reviewed for the next few months, and his suspension was whittled down to only 4 games. In a statement, Roethlisberger said, "I have learned a lot over the past several months about myself as a person. I am committed to continuing on this path of being the type of person my family raised me to be, and exceeding what is expected of me as the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers." He came back after his suspension and led the Steelers to the Super Bowl that season, which they ultimately lost. The quarterback is still playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers and has been pretty well behaved since his suspension, apart from 1 or 2 uniform violations. Odell Thurman. Odell Thurman was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2nd round of the 2005 NFL Draft. This linebacker's rookie season was memorable, recording 100 tackles, 5 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and 1.5 quarterback sacks. His great plays helped the Bengals win the AFC North and make the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. His spectacular first season also made him a finalist for NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. However, all good things must come to an end, and after a great year, he started fumbling in off-season. And when we say fumbling, we mean like the worst kind of fumbling. In 2006, Thurman was suspended for the first 4 games of the season for failing to take a required substance abuse test. He was then suspended for the rest of the season when he was caught drunk driving. Then, right before his reinstatement in 2007, Thurman was wanted in Georgia on assault charges. Those charges were dropped, but that was enough to deny Thurman's reinstatement, suspending him for 2 more years. However, by April 2008, Thurman was back on the Bengals' offseason roster, but not even a month later, the Bengals waived Thurman due to another failed drug test, which prompted the league to suspend Thurman indefinitely. He never applied to be reinstated, and in 2009 he ended up in the now defunct United Football League. Ouch. The last we heard, he accepted a position as an intern on Georgia's strength and conditioning staff for the Bulldogs. Considering UGA is where his football career started, this sounds like a great move after what was a tumultuous time for him in the NFL. Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon joined the ranks of the NFL in 2012 when he was drafted in the second round by the Cleveland Browns. Like most of the players on our list, he started out strong, with his first 2 years being great, recording 50 catches, 108 yards, and 5 touchdowns in his rookie season. In 2013, after being suspended from the first 2 games due to violating the NFL's substance abuse policy, he finished with a league-leading 1,646 receiving yards and was named first-team All-Pro. It was in 2014 when things really started going downhill for this top receiver. After violating the substance abuse policy again and again, he ended up being suspended for 3 seasons after his 4th violation. After years of rehab, he was reinstated midway through 2017 and traded to the Patriots in 2018, but was soon suspended again for violating the same policy. A conditional reinstatement in August 2019 allowed him to play 6 games with the Patriots, pulling in 20 catches for 287 yards and a score before he was waived in late October. The Seahawks picked him up the next day, and in 5 games, Gordon managed 7 catches on 11 targets for 130 yards and averaged 26 offensive snaps per game. However, in December 2019, it was announced that Gordon was suspended indefinitely for violating the NFL policies on performance-enhancing substances and substances of abuse. Being the 5th suspension in 8 years for Gordon, it was obvious that the ban was coming. Hopefully, he is able to get his life back on track. Vontez Barret. If you've heard of Vontez Barret, you're most likely aware that he is known for his hard hits. His mother even told USA Today that while Barret was on his high school football team, parents often came up to her and asked her to tell her son not to hit their son so forcefully during games. Despite his on-field aggression, the linebacker played very well, and prior to his junior season, Barret was regarded as one of the best linebackers available in the 2012 NFL Draft and was projected to be a first-round pick. However, he had some problems at Arizona State, including a high number of personal foul penalties, and his once projected first pick stock kept dropping and dropping. He ended up going undrafted in 2012, but was eventually signed by the Bengals. Barret was suspended numerous times during his career with the Bengals for violating player safety rules. He was once fined in 2014 for attempting to twist Panther quarterback Cam Newton's ankle after he scored a touchdown during the 3rd quarter of a game. He moved on to the Raiders in 2019 and was banned for 12 games after a helmet-to-helmet hit on the Colts tight end Jack Doyle. This minimum of 12-game suspension is the longest in NFL history for on-the-field offenses. After 8 NFL seasons, Barret has accumulated over $4 million in fines and salary loss to suspensions. As of 2020, he is a free agent, but with his long history of dirty plays, where does he go from here? Michael Vick. Well, we can't make this list and leave Michael Vick off with his infamous dogfighting scandal. Vick had all the promise in the world. The former quarterback was selected by the Falcons as the first overall pick in the 2001 NFL Draft. In his 6 years spent with the Falcons, he was named to 3 Pro Bowls and held the record for the most career rushing yards by a quarterback. He had a brand deal with Nike and also set a record by rushing for 8.4 yards per carry. However, in August 2007, Vick was suspended indefinitely by the NFL after pleading guilty to federal charges in the Bad News Kennel's dogfighting investigation. Vick sparked national outrage after he admitted to being involved in the hanging, drowning, or beating to death of 6 to 8 dogs that had underwhelming performances in fights he backed. The NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell gave Vick the indefinite suspension because Vick admitted to providing most of the money for the gambling side of this canine operation. He did, however, leave open the possibility of Vick returning to the NFL if he cooperated with the authorities. After spending 21 months in prison, Vick signed with the Eagles in 2009. As a member of the Eagles for 5 years, he had a remarkable career before officially retiring from professional football in 2017. There is a current controversy with the announcement of Vick becoming a Legends captain at the 2020 Pro Bowl. Such a controversy, in fact, that an online petition to block Vick from receiving this accolade has garnered more than 550,000 signatures. Despite this, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the former Eagles quarterback will still be honored with that title. Before you leave, make sure to watch more of our videos and hit the subscribe button on your way out.